Hi everyone, and welcome to your safe space, where we talk about real stories of real people with absolutely no judgment. Today, we have two young professionals joining us: an entrepreneur, Yami Garcia, and an e-commerce manager who is a self-professed mental health advocate and oversharer, Marika. Hi, Yami and Mar.
Hi.
Hi, Georgia. Thanks for having
Thanks for
us.
joining.
Thanks for having us.
How are you guys? How have you been doing? How's everything being at home?
Yami, go ahead.
Oh, good. Actually, just keeping myself busy with work.
That's
Staying at
good.
home mostly. Actually, and just yeah, just chilling right now. Hoping this whole pandemic ends soon. How about you,
What about
Marika?
you,
How are
Mar?
you?
Doing okay, doing okay. I don't know, Yami, if they mentioned this, but I came home in the maybe middle of the pandemic last year from teaching English in Spain. So I'm actually doing good because I've more or less um readjusted to life back here. It's long, it feels long, but it's nice to be on the same boat as everyone, to be able to share this whole languishing period with everyone. So yeah, doing well given the
Well,
Oh, I
circumstances.
mentioned that languishing thing. I'm not sure if you're able to read that, Yami, but it was all over like social media. The New York
I
Times put
saw.
out this article. Yeah, talking about languishing, and I think that's how everyone has been feeling. I think everyone is saying it's burnout. I'm burnt out, but I think yeah, languishing is the more appropriate term because we're not really doing anything since we're just at home. So it's in between. I think what it said was like it's in between being depressed but also being fulfilled. So you're just kind of those two things. So I was wondering if how that has taken form for you guys, because I know you're both very busy in your respective jobs and in your other pursuits. So how has like that languishing thing taken form for you?
Marika, go ahead.
Um, yeah, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but sometimes the days they're all kind of just mashed up together. Like if there weren't a very specific event that happened, which is, you know, it can be usually video calls with friends, right? Those are my time markers now because every other day, like I mean, for the weekdays, for example, it's set schedule at least for me for work. So the days go by and it feels like maybe sometimes it's a like a fever dream where it's like
Yeah.
did this all happen or like the same thing just keeps happening and happening. So how am I able um to pinpoint like what day is it, like for me, for example, it's May. Like it's such a weird thing that it's already May right now. So yeah, I think it comes in that form where some days feel the same, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but of course it's just less eventful. Yeah.
For
What about you, Yami?
me, I think it's just really, I think it's really difficult to find motivation nowadays,
Yeah.
to to just become better every day. Just because, Marika was mentioning na it's not as eventful. I don't get to see friends, family, not as much. You know what I mean? So, and work is more difficult nowadays, especially in my field, because we're in real estate, so it's really hard to like visit the sites, and parang it's just hard to find motivation for me right now. I think that's really bothering me. I think that's what's been bothering me a lot this past few months. It's just trying to find the motivation to get up because Mariko was mentioning that some like Saturdays and Sundays don't even feel like weekends anymore. Like they're all just the same. The days are just all the same. So yeah, I mean there are a lot of things to do naman, but it's just um becomes repetitive na din on some days. So yeah, that's how it's been feeling for me right now.
I don't
Yeah.
know if you guys felt this though, but then I actually felt like relieved to read about the languishing thing because in a way it kind of validated how I felt because I thought maybe it's just me. It seems like everybody's doing okay. I'm the only one that's not motivated, that's feeling burnt out, even if I'm not doing anything. But at the same time, it was really great because it was great to see that everybody would kind of resonate with it, and that people were open and sharing their experiences, because you also realize that what you're going through is normal. And I think it brings to like the consciousness of more people. Like we all have our own mental health issues and our own mental health struggles. So I was wondering if you guys could tell us a little bit more about your mental health challenges, maybe, whether in the pandemic or before the pandemic, because I think again, like now that we talk about our challenges more, it makes it more normal for everyone, and people become more accepting. So maybe you can share a little bit more about this experience.
Challenges. I feel like mental health itself is a challenge. um, but trying to answer your question, no. I think maybe now it's a bit more special. Like I feel like there, even if, for example, both Yami and I have been, like we've been on our mental health journey for a while. There's definitely a difference with the pandemic, especially because it has its own special set of mental health challenges, like in itself. No. But I guess for me, like a general challenge that I've felt in my mental health journey is um you can always talk about very surface level things. Like I do feel like our generation and this time, it's very easy to be open. Like, like for example, one thing that people do is like Instagram post, like, and then you share it to your stories, like very stuff, like mental health stuff or like motivational quotes or parang, like no bad days, mga ganon. I feel that that's very surface level, which is still good. It's still a good thing, like surface level in the sense that you're able to share a small piece of you with anyone and everyone. Like if I post to my Instagram stories, I don't really like care who sees it. I just know that I have followers or a few people who will see my story. That's fine. But then again, because like it's nice that everyone is able to share at that level, you know. But at the same time, as someone who really tends to struggle with my mental health, or at least there can be dips in a sense, um, it's a bit hard to have to go to deeper layers, especially with even with trusted ones, even with loved ones, because sometimes it's not like you always say what's 100% on your mind. You're still going to keep some details, some like if you're overthinking about a certain facet of your situation, or if you have like these irrational thoughts, diba? That's not something that you're just going to say, right? Like to your friends or to your family, to your loved ones. Um, so I think one challenge for me is being able to really share like the deepest aspects of when I'm going through, a struggle with my mental health. Like obviously it's nice to be like, hey, how are you with a friend? And they get to answer you honestly, you get to answer them honestly. But sometimes you just keep it until a certain layer, depending on on who you're speaking to, because like you don't know if they have the capacity to take it, right? And you also are like trying to seem like you still have it together, even if you've established that, yeah, I'm not doing so well, but yung parang not doing so well, but kaya naman, like fight lang, that kind of thing. So that's my personal first thought for your question, George. I don't know about you, like Yami, for example.
Um, for me, the most mental health challenge right now that's really bothering me as a person is, I think, it's just being away from people just because of the pandemic. If we're just talking about the most recent events, no, parang wala, parang ang hirap kasi for me as a person, I really enjoy being around people, whether it be family, friends, um, doing activities that would usually help me get through my difficult times. Um, maybe like give you an example, siguro ako, I really like spending time with my family, for example, pag Sunday lunches, So we don't have that right now because we're in different households. And that's one of the things that really helps me cope with like I was telling you about. I think I told you guys about that no when we had our first kind of Zoom na um one of the things that really helps me is the activities that I love, which is spending time with family, friends, going out, doing playing sports, exercising. I mean, I still get to do those things, but not as how I would be able to pre-pandemic. So I think that's one of the challenges for me talaga is really being stuck at home because I'm also an extrovert talaga. So it's really it's really different. It's been really different for me these past few months. Just trying to adjust to how we're supposed to live right now. So that's one of the I think that's one of the biggest challenges for me talaga is just mainly being stuck at home talaga. I mean, there are a lot of other things na other people are going through and ako I just have to think about, staying at home and continue to work, mga ganun. But it's really like for me as a person, talaga, it's really challenging kasi I'm really an extrovert and I really like being around people. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges talaga for me right now.
Well, thank you guys for sharing that. I super resonated with what you said. I especially know what Marisa said that the pandemic itself poses its own mental health challenges. So right now we're all going through our own mental health challenges. So with Marika, it's for her being able to really recognize and discuss what she's really feeling in the moment. I guess especially because we don't have that like sense of real connection since we're not together physically. And then with Yami, it's also really being able to spend time with your family and loved ones and being that those are ways that we keep healthy mentally even pre-pandemic, right? It's being able to see the people we love. So I'm just curious, since we're kind of touched a little bit about coping mechanisms. What was your mental health like, or how did you keep up with your mental health prior to the pandemic? Did you experience any challenges? Did you what did you go through pre-pandemic, and how did you overcome that? So I know it's a loaded question, but maybe just like a quickly breeze through like a little bit about your mental health then, in in the past, like.
Uh, for me, I think it was um, coping talaga for me. Well, siguro to start with how I realized that I needed help was when I was acting different na after this certain situation that happened in my life when I was like grade 4, grade 5. I started acting um, different during high school, college. I was uh, treating people that I feel like I shouldn't have been treating them that way. I react to certain situations very parang irrationally. And then some people around me in my close circle just kind of like started noticing it also. Specifically my older brother Dax, and then he's the one who really pushed me to kind of he told me na parang it's okay, a lot of people are also going through a lot of things, and it's okay that if you want to seek for help, professional help. And then yun nga. So I decided to start visiting uh several doctors, and that was also challenging, no, to find someone that I could trust really to talk to and be open and feel like na there was no bias or judgment when I would visit that specific person. And then finally, yun nga, I found someone that I felt like understood me, a doctor that I felt like I was very comfortable to tell my story, to really open up about everything that's been going on in my head, the past experiences that I went through. And then he started giving me some real good advice, and I felt like I had no bias um, with the position that I was in. So that was really like helpful for me, and that was probably one of my uh, coping mechanisms where I found um, a lot of things that helped me get through those bad days or difficult days when I felt like I was really down. um I think that's what really started it all. Na parang it was also a lot about helping myself and understanding what kind of things I should be doing not only stay afloat but also become better as a person in general. So I think that's one of my starting points where I really figured out my coping mechanisms. What about you, Marika?
That's nice. I actually just want to bounce off a little bit of what you said, because we're similar in the sense that we both had that parang the trigger event nga, that cathartic event that led us on the journey, on our mental health journeys. And I too had to go through a process of trial and error with seeing doctors from, I think it started with the guidance office in Ateneo. Um, I sorry, just backtracking a little bit. Um, what prompted me to go through that process actually was the fatigue I felt from having to share my my thoughts, my emotions, especially the heavy ones, with my friends. So after like my whole cathartic event, syempre, I sought the help and the guidance and just the presence of my best friends and everyone who was close to me at that time. And after a while, it gets a bit repetitive. I don't know if this is something you guys resonate with, but when you have this sort of grief from a specific event, your grief is just from that event. Sometimes there's nothing more to it. It could be very cathartic, like, a death or a loss of someone, and nothing else has to happen. But because it's rooted in just one specific thing, um, it I guess it can you can feel fatigue, and other people can feel fatigue as well, because you're just repeating, like, let's say I'm sad because this happened, and then the next day I'm still sad because it happened, and so on so forth for who knows how long, right? So it can get repetitive, and I felt that way, and I also didn't want to burden my friends and my loved ones anymore with my emotions and everything that I felt, because I felt like I let it out so much already. So I said I need professional help. And so yun, I went on that journey na, from seeing a guidance counselor who referred me then to a psychologist who said it might be better if I saw a psychiatrist, meaning like I could get meds for my official diagnosis. And yeah, it's been that ever since. We can touch on it later, but I did go through a series of different diagnoses. Um, just long story short, I just thought I was depressed. And um, you touched on this a little bit earlier, Yami, and um, the whole thing about seeking help only when you're depressed, right? Like it's still a foreign concept to constantly seek help, diba? Even if you have your ups and downs. You only think about help when you're at your down. Yeah. But anyway, so going back, I just always sought help, and now my coping mechanism, one of, is seeing my psychiatrist, because I feel that I understand myself best when he explains it. And how he explains it is, there's a chemical imbalance in your body, and we need to regulate that with medicines, because, it's, let's say, like cognitive behavioral therapy can only do so much then. Because if it's just a lack of hormones, for example, syempre, like, sige, why don't we just try and put that back physiologically. So yeah, so similar experience with Yami, and syempre I do have my own coping mechanisms, like watching my favorite comfort shows, talking to my friends, having time for myself, because that's where I get my energy. I'm an introvert. But yeah, I guess in terms of mental health, it's really been having a constant presence in my life through my psychiatrist. I still haven't really explored talk therapy yet, but Oh, syempre, I'm open to it because like I feel like this whole journey of mental health is very like there's a lot of evolution within that journey. So, I'm here for the ride, I guess. Sorry, that makes me nervous.
It was really great. Thanks to the both of you for sharing that. Actually, there are so many like parallels in your story. I think like one of the most powerful things in both your stories that somebody saw you, like somebody recognized that you had that experience. So with Marika, it was that initial guidance counselor, and then with Yami, it was his brother. I mean, it was just one point of interaction, right? And they really allowed you to understand that you might need further help. Like if you can't get that from your friends, maybe the guidance office is not enough, and that's okay. Like you want to see a professional, you can and you should. And I can imagine that that must have been tiring because the both of you shared that you also had to go through different therapists, right? I mean, it's like dating
Yep.
someone. It's like after a breakup, you have to reintroduce yourself to somebody new before you date. It's like, oh
That
my
makes
gosh,
sense.
sorry again. So it is also emotionally draining. And I guess just to give everybody some context, I have known both Marika and Yami since high school. So Marika is actually one of my best friends, and Yami and I have always been acquainted through common friends. So it's interesting to hear these stories from them now because the way that you're telling it, it's interesting. Like I see you in a different light because growing up, you go through like different emotions or different experiences, and you all like respond in different ways. We all respond in different ways, right? So those coping mechanisms, I guess I could see it in some ways, like in some of your behaviors, but then in really being able to hear the story, like in now from like from an outside perspective sort of thing, it allows me to better appreciate your stories and who you are today. And I think that's something that a lot of us tend to forget is that we're the sum of our we're greater than the sum of our parts. Like whoever we are now, it's because of so many experiences or at whatever point we are in our life. Right? It's so many things. So that helps me appreciate that even more and appreciate the both of you even more. And I hope that's something that I'll always keep in mind when dealing with other people. But anyway, what I really loved about your stories again is that yeah, you had that experience of being seen and it really empowered you. So I just wanted to know how did that experience of owning your diagnosis allow you to grow? Because it sounds like I mean now that you're saying it seems like it was an easy thing, but I'm sure it wasn't. It was a lot of growing pains. But how did that allow you to grow? Because knowing the both of you from before and knowing you again now, it's like you're completely different people, and I mean that in the best.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, do you have an answer for this?
You want me to go ahead
Yeah, yeah,
or
do it. Go, go.
go lang? Oh, sige. Siguro for me, it's really nice kasi even when we had our initial Zoom talk 2 or 3 weeks ago, there were a lot of things that I realized through just this plain, I don't know, just having this conversation, this open conversation with other people that might be experiencing or resonating with the same feelings or experiences. No, not exactly the same experiences, but I mean, similar situations where we might have felt the same way through different experiences, of course. So for me, parang being diagnosed with depression and then starting on meds for a while. No, I was on and off kasi yun nga you're saying it's like a relationship then eh. You really have to become open to this person that you want to talk to and know that you're safe to share everything talaga about you. Um when I finally found that person that I was comfortable with, that I visited for a good maybe like 4 months, and then yun nga, now I haven't been so active actually. It allowed me to grow because I realized that it's okay to have bad days, or it's okay to feel na um, something bad might have happened today, something I don't like, something that might have triggered me again. But it's a matter of realizing that maybe uh, the following day, in the coming days, there are a lot of things to look forward to. So I think that's how it really allowed me to grow. Because yun nga, parang before I would always, let it linger for a long time, weeks, maybe even months, these bad situations that I would experience or these bad days that I would have, but now, after being diagnosed, recognizing it talaga, acknowledging the fact that there is something wrong, it also allows me to become better the next day in the coming days because yeah, I know that it'll pass then eventually, and I just have to understand that it might be just something that I'm feeling right now, but tomorrow will be a better day. Cliche, but uh, yun, I think that's how it allowed me to grow talaga. Just really acknowledging the fact that there's something wrong is the biggest thing that allowed me to grow talaga in this kind of journey experience that I'm having. What about you, Marika?
Thanks, Yami. That felt so insightful. That's so nice. Like such self-reflection. For me, it's a bit different. Um, so after the first like cathartic event that led me on to my mental journey, my mental health journey. Um, so I sought a guidance counselor, right? And it didn't work out. It just felt like he was talking to me as a friend, and I needed an objective third party rather than someone who was like a sounding board. Na parang, oh yeah, yeah, I understand why you're sad. Oh, really? Ganun. I just needed like someone who was more like analytic for some reason. Anyway, and I did mention this before the recording, but I'd always known that I had depressive tendencies. And so, anyway, fast forward to that time in college where I finally sought professional help. And the first psychologist that I ever saw, when she confirmed that I had depression, which was like severe at that time, it was like a load was lifted, like so like a really big load was lifted off of me because it just confirmed what I already knew, what I already been thinking, and just to be able to give that label to what I was experiencing, it just felt so liberating because okay, I have depression. It's not such a scary monster anymore that's just like there, like lurking in the corner. It's inside of me. It's there. I mean, I'm more familiar with it now, but it has a name, right? You know how like with scary things, once you're familiarized with them, um like like Casper the Friendly Ghost. I don't know, I don't have a good example, but once you familiarize yourself with something that used to be so scary, it's like, oh, okay, not bad. Like, yeah. So yun, personally, I'm still going through like my mental health journey because I've actually experienced different diagnoses in the past few years ever since that first time that I started seeing a psychologist. Like it was um depression, and then I found out I also had general anxiety, and they kind of go together also, so that wasn't so bad for me. And then later on, when I wasn't really happy with like my first psychiatrist, I found out that I had bipolar disorder, which is just manic depression. But yeah, so anyway, um for me, like it feels like with all of that evolving, all of those different diagnoses, it just feels like it's a label. Like all of these diagnoses are labels for what I'm going through. And it doesn't feel so permanent to me. Like I don't really believe in permanent what's this diagnoses, because I feel like, sometimes it can be up and down, sometimes it can be just down. That's just my own personal thinking. Like I'm not trying to discredit like mood disorders or anything, but for me, like it does feel sometimes pretty situational. And right now, like my diagnosis is like bipolar disorder, which is, yeah, like it's nice to know um that there's a name for what I'm experiencing, right? It's nice to be able to say, I'm feeling this way because this is happening to me. I'm feeling this way because this is what my body is experiencing, or my brain is experiencing. So for me, I feel really empowered to be able to have all of these diagnoses and know that there's a reason for the way that I'm reacting to things or the way that I'm just acting. So yeah, like I feel like it helps me grow in that sense, like emotional maturity and just being very, very self aware and knowing that it's not a scary like monster that you don't know. It's something a little bit more familiar. And when it's familiar, it's easier to grasp and in that way easier to get over or yeah, like understand. Yeah, that's
I
me.
agree. I relate to that. I guess just to share, like I myself, I was also diagnosed with depression, and when I found out, um, I didn't feel sad. Like in a way, I actually felt relieved. Like it's so nice that you can validate my experience by putting a label to it. Like it makes me understand that. Like now that you tell me all the symptoms of it, I see it in myself, and I see how that manifests in my own life, and it kind of helps me like validate my experiences rather than gaslight them and tell myself that like I'm overreacting, I'm crazy, like none of it is true. So I definitely agree with you, but I also think that yes, that diagnosis is not final. And I think with mental health in general, people think that I'm gonna be fine, I'm gonna be healed, or I'm not bad enough for me to see someone. But really, I mean, just like with your physical health, your mental health needs constant care. It needs to be constantly monitored as well. You're never going to reach like a final form or a final state wherein this is it. I never need to watch over it because even with your body, right? Like you always have to make sure that you're exercising, that you're eating well because it's so easy to get sick. It's so easy to feel weak, to feel fatigued. So thank you both for sharing that. And what I really loved about what you both said, what I found so empowering is that it feels like you guys aren't ashamed for whatever you were diagnosed with or whatever you went through. In fact, you own it, and I'm just curious, I guess especially for you, Yami, if you experienced any judgment, both of you, though, with your peers and with your family and friends for your mental health struggles. I mean, I was particularly curious with Yami because I guess sometimes being in the Philippines, there's that notion that men have to be tough, like you shouldn't have to be in touch with your feelings or recognize your feelings. Like it becomes almost like an insult, right? When people say that you're
Yeah.
emotional. But conversation is changing now, and I'm just wondering if that made it any more difficult for you, Yanni, or even with you, Mark, because people always say like nag-iinner ka lang, like you're just overreacting. You have those experiences.
Yeah, for me actually, I've been fortunate lang talaga, to be honest, that I'm surrounded by people talaga that I feel like really care and love me. So whenever topics like this would ever come up, they'd be super open to listen to me. No, siguro from family initially there was a little bit of pushback. With what I'm feeling, parang na-invalidate minsan yung feelings ko. But eventually, when I started opening up about it talaga, telling them na, there's something up, there's something not right now with how I'm thinking, how I'm feeling. Eventually, they kind of started being more open about it na din. With friends naman, generally kasi my closest circle talaga, no. They're all really understanding. I feel like I can trust them a lot with the things that I'm saying, the things that I'm feeling. They know that I can be quite emotional sometimes. I cry a lot, so they know that, and they know there are certain things that really trigger me. So fortunately, yun nga, I'm surrounded by a lot of people that actually I can trust, people that I love, people that I'm uh, open to sharing these things with them. So I never really felt like there was judgment. And also most especially again, I just want to mention my brother again. Most especially my brother. He was really the one who pushed me to to be open about it. He would always give me examples. Because my brother and I would always talk about parang basketball, no. The NBA kasi came out with these segments where they would talk about mental health talaga, na even the toughest people that I look up to, idolize, like some of the NBA players nga, are going through mental health issues as well. They have down days also. I mean, kasi all we see is their highlights, in life, but there are people also, they realize na they help us realize na even if we super idolize these people, um there are issues, that there are underlying issues in their own personal lives na won't always be seen on TV, diba? When we're watching them play basketball. Yun yung ano, parang I just wanted to share kasi that's how my brother really connected with me, in the sense na he told me talaga na it's okay, don't feel ashamed about it, and don't ever think that you will have to hide these kinds of things. It's normal to feel in general. It's normal to feel certain ways about certain things that happen in your life. And then moving on to what you're saying, parang Georgia, was that men generally aren't supposed to be talking about these kinds of things. It's not so uh, such an open topic, especially here in the Philippines. That's why I'm thankful then that there are a lot of platforms like this now coming up that are really encouraging people to speak up, to be open, don't be embarrassed to say the things that you feel. Kasi yun nga, parang men are also parang feel these kinds of things, depression, sadness, you know. It's not parang it shouldn't be something that we should be ashamed about talking about, kasi we all go through our different experiences, and I don't think anybody, regardless of their gender, should be parang have the feeling of invalidation of what they're feeling because of a certain experience or situation that they have in their life right now. So yeah, I've been fortunate lang talaga. I think I've really been very fortunate with my mental health journey, because I generally, most of the people that are around me really wanted to understand, wanted to help me, um, and were really there to listen to the things that I was saying, and they weren't just like brushing it off na parang nag-iinarte ka lang, ngayon lang yan, dahil lang yan sa nangyari, di ba? Parang I never really had uh, an experience like that recently, no, especially with my family and friends. So yeah.
That's so
Oh,
nice.
thanks, Maria. What you was like saying it forward, because you're right. You are very fortunate, and I'm happy for you that you had that kind of support system. Like they really cultivated that safe space for you. But I think at the same time, like you really owning your experience and like, sharing that experience, like it also helps cultivate that safe space for others who may not have like a solid support system. Like I'm so glad. I love hearing that NBA story. I didn't know, so it's great that the people who do have the platform do share the story. So thank you for sharing your story and opening up about it. What about you, Mark? Did you have any experience of like judgment? Because even if girls are the more emotional one, right? Like that's the that's the notion. And girls are so maarte, they have all these feelings. You get a lot of judgment. Like more often than not, girls are called crazy, right? If they feel expressive with their emotions, or even like yun, like the inner tell. That's something that people use all the time for people who own their mental health. So have you ever experienced anything like that, whether in family or friends or coworkers?
No naman. This is not a thing that I would speak to my coworkers about. I don't know. That's just like a side note. But I'm still, regardless, I'm still super open. Oversharing nga minsan. But I think it's also like what Yami said, the environment that is able to foster such openness. I think that if we didn't have those things, like for example, um, your basketball heroes, for example, just talking about themselves. Like, I feel like people would be more closed off. That's why I'm really thankful that right now, we're living in a place in a time where people are open about it and people know, not to be judgmental of anything that anyone is going through. And yeah, I just wanted to say that it's nice that I feel like sometimes it's a domino effect kasi. Like from my experience, I was super super validated and what's this accepted during college, like in my org. Everyone was really really open about their mental health. It was crazy. Like I could just be like, I'm depressed, me too. um not to make it casual or anything, but it was really nice how we were all very close kasi. And so I guess that closeness was able to foster that openness and that acceptance, like, okay, yeah, that I know this person's mental health situation because he's open about it. And let's say like one person is open about it, another person can be like, oh my god, I'm feeling the exact same way. I'm so glad that you spoke up because I didn't know that I wasn't the only one experiencing that. So yeah, I guess I also have that kind of environment that stayed with me also. Like a lot of those people are still my close friends. And for the family naman, my family has been really supportive, but I come from a small family, like we're two siblings lang, and we're all very like independent talaga. So I kind of get that stubbornness to like um parang take care of my own mental health sometimes. Like just as an example, my whole mental health journey, unlike Yami's, was because I told myself I need to see a professional. Like it's just not cutting it to talk to friends about the same thing over and over again and try to convince my parents that, like, for example, my grades are getting lower because I'm depressed. Like it's hard. It's hard for them to grasp that, right? Um so yeah, but they've been really, really supportive, especially now that they've experienced, me for, like on that deeper level for a few years now. So that helps. But I do get moments though, like my family's not like traditionally very Filipino, but there's this one time that so since I'm bipolar, I have meds that I take every day talaga. It's like maintenance meds. Um but my parents sometimes don't understand that. And it's like there was this one comment that my mom made um during dinner that I think I was asking about like my meds. Like I think my supply was running and I was asking my dad to go get it for me. And my mom goes, huh? I thought you're okay na. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Like it was such a weird, such a bad comment. When I told her, I was like, ano ba yan? You've been experiencing my mental health journey beside me this whole time. So you should know by now that, like, sometimes it's not situational. Like like you could have gotten over um certain trigger events, but at the same time, like, your emotional well-being still needs to be tended to. It still needs to be taken care of. And um it's not black or white where yun nga, parang it's either you're okay or you're not, right? There's a huge gray area for that, for mental health. So that's something I still need to work on. But otherwise, um I've gotten nothing but support from family, friends, and I do feel like that's what allows me to be so empowered and such an oversharer, as mentioned, because I know that at least the people in my circle um will not judge me, or if they do, at least I know who's right for me or who's going to be there for me or not. So it just feels nice to be able to speak my truth and not feel hindered by things like, oh my gosh, what will these people think, or they're going to judge me. I'm scared to let out that part of me. So I don't have those kinds of blockages in my life, which I'm very thankful for as well.
Oh, that's so nice. I'm glad that you guys got the support that you needed from your friends and from your family. I found it so funny, Mom, when you said sometimes you'll just open up to a friend and say, I'm depressed. And someone say, oh, I'm depressed too. Like, let's bond over depression. I mean, I think before, especially the generations before, they'd be so ashamed. They feel like it's a weakness, whether you're a boy or a girl, right? But they feel like it's not something that you talk about with other people because you have to go through it alone. But definitely be able to share that story encourages others to share their story and really normalize that. It's okay to go through these things. Like what Lam said, you don't have to feel it. You have to go through it, and it's okay. So I'm really glad to hear everything that you guys shared today. It seems like it was such a journey for the both of you. Like you both seem very emotionally intelligent now, and that's really so inspiring. I'm sure it helps your other friends. So, and I guess the one thing that I wanted to end with is that, being where you are today and with everything that you've gone through, how you've grown and how you've healed. If you could talk to your younger self, what would you want to tell
I don't know. I feel like if I spoke to my younger self, especially my 12-year-old self, I think that was around the age where I started really thinking about, like, I feel like I'm different emotionally, like emotionally reactive in that sense. Parang I want to tell her, like, snap out of it. You're fine. In the sense that it's it doesn't crush your world when you get a diagnosis, or when you finally figure out, parang, I think I'm depressed, or I think I'm this and that and anxious or bipolar. Um, yun nga, parang even if I mentioned that those things are just labels, it still makes it, yun nga, and it still makes it easy to swallow. Um, when I keep going back to this, but like these monsters that seem so distant and aggressive and scary, once you're able to slap a name onto it and familiarize yourself with them, it's not so scary, and it's a part of life. Like, as much as we like talking about what makes us different, what makes our experiences um different, we're still somewhat going through, like, people are, like, other people are going through similar things somewhere out there. Someone is going through the exact same thing as you, and it's comforting to know that you're not alone. You can be special, you can have your own special experiences, but it's also comforting to know that it's human. It's such a human thing to feel, like, whatever you're feeling. So, keep your head up, keep your chin up. You haven't gone through the worst yet, dear young self. But the best thing is you're gonna get through it, and you're gonna get stronger. So that's so nice to think about. And I hope little me would have known that also.
That's so great, man. Thanks for that. What about you, Yam? What did you want to tell your younger self?
Wow. First thing, I guess I would really agree with Marika talaga. Parang, these experiences, I would tell myself na parang these experiences that you're going through will make you who you are. And it will eventually make you stronger because you've gone through these things. And then eventually, once you um, start going through similar experiences again in the future, you'll know how to handle it na, diba? So parang that's one thing that I would tell myself. Number two, I would probably tell myself is be thankful pa rin for everything else that I have around me, everybody else that I have around me, all the other experiences that I'm having in my life. Or there are so many things to be thankful for. Although yun nga, there are bad times, there are bad days, bad situations in your life. There are so many other things that you can look at and be thankful for, be grateful for, to turn things around, diba? Parang, for me, like I would tell myself na parang, regardless of the family problems that we went through, I still have that. I still have them. I still have a relatively big family that's always there for each other. We make sure that we're in contact with each other. We're helping each other go through the things that we're going through. So that's one of the things that I'm really thankful for. I would tell myself na parang, so I wasn't as mature lang kasi before, I guess, to realize those things. Um, and also be thankful for, the life that I'm living. Because yun nga, again, I'll go back to that kwentuhan session that we had 3 weeks ago. The initial kind of interview that we had was, um, I was telling you guys na parang ako feeling ko ngayon, after I realized and acknowledged that I had depression, was ang sarap mabuhay. Ang sobrang sarap mabuhay. Ang daming bagay na there are so many things in life that can make you happy, and then uh that can help you get through the bad days, diba? So, yun lang, parang just keep looking forward every day And one of the things that really helped me, I was telling you guys about Sam Burns, that the TED talk that I watched. It was really super short TED talk, no. Sam Burns is ano. I wish I was able to watch it earlier as a kid. Uh, was one of two things that he mentioned because it was uh, don't parang ano, I forgot the exact line now, but don't feel so bad about things that you can't do because there's so many things that you can do. So that's one, no. Parang that's how I look at life now. If there's something that I can't do talaga, I feel like it's not within my power to do it. I look at the other things that I have or the other things that I can do. So I would tell myself that. And then second is really to surround myself. What Sam Burns mentioned also was to surround yourself with people that you actually want to be around. So really filtering. Parang okay. I mean, like there are times kasi like social media kasi parang it really glorifies having so many followers, likes, comments from so many people that probably don't even care about you. So for me, parang it's really um, making sure that I surround myself. I'll tell myself, my younger self, na growing up, make sure you filter the people that you actually want to be around. Kasi recently ko lang talaga nagawa yun. Uh, it was only until yun nga, recently that I was able to really say to myself and tell myself na these are the people that I want to be around, specifically my family and my really close barkada talaga, my close friends talaga that helped me get through everything that I was going through. No, so probably that's what I would tell my my younger self. And last, siguro is better days are always gonna come. You'll always have bad days. It's okay to have bad days, and it's okay talaga to have bad days because you're not the only one. And I know it will pass then eventually. These things will eventually pass, and it's just a matter of acknowledging that these things are happening, and then just knowing what to do, with these situations, these certain situations, moving forward. So yeah, that's what I would tell my younger self, pretty much.
I wish you could both of you could also tell my younger self all of those things. I mean, I love it. Like I mentioned earlier, to those who are listening, that you know, Rick and Yami, for so long since you're in high school, I guess for context, we're in our late 20s already. So I've known them for a while. It's really refreshing to see how you guys have grown. I mean, I think yeah, going through what you went through at such a young age, it's so difficult because you're just really learning to label your emotions, go through complex emotions at that age. But you know what you said was right, Yami. You know, going through what you went through, it makes you who you are. And you know, I think that's made the both of you really emotionally intelligent. And I think that helps the others that you surround yourself with also realize their emotions and also become more emotionally intelligent. You know, I think you guys are such prime examples that really owning your story changes your life and who you are today and what you guys have today. It's really because of that. So it's so inspiring, and I hope that the people listening are able to be inspired by how you owned your story and how you changed your life now. So yeah, that's actually all the time that we have left for today. But again, I really just want to thank you both. Thank you for being open, sharing your story, and helping us cultivate. So thanks, Mar, and thanks, Yami. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having me. Appreciate it. And I know I just wanted to add, I really appreciate that you guys have this platform just to encourage more people to become more open. Um, to talk about what they're feeling. And it's okay to be open, guys. It's super okay.
Yeah. Likewise, like I said earlier, sometimes it's just a domino effect. You just need one person to say something that you catch, you listen, and you're like, "Hey, I'm feeling the exact same way," and it will lead to you being more open and maybe discovering yourself a little bit better. So yeah, I hope we're able to help you do that, and we're super thankful that we're able to get this kind of platform to air not air things out, but share our experience that maybe you know maybe something someone else is going through. So hopefully, if someone hears this, about like you're not alone, and
Definitely.
yeah, it gets so much better once you're able to acknowledge it.
That's true. So thank you for that, for sharing that, allowing people to acknowledge it, and really sharing your story so people can resonate with it and feel normal about themselves. So again, thanks guys. This has been your safe space where we talk about real stories, real people, and absolutely. Thanks for listening and see you